right, I think I fixed it. Hopefully. It says it's fixed. So I'm seeing myself on YouTube and I let's see if I am here on Facebook yet. And it is. Perfect. So hopefully it's all connected. I don't know. We'll see what happens. For some reason, my phone on YouTube is not saying that it is, but I am showing it here. So we will see. If there's anyone out there who wants to check on YouTube for me under Start With Occupancy, that is the name of the YouTube channel. Let me know. And just let me know if you see that it's live. It's weird, but it's just doing what it do. I'm like, where is it at? I don't see it. But you know what? We're going to go on and figure it out later. So it worked earlier. I was super excited. I prepped up. I made sure. And of course, now it's not. So that is life in social media land. And that is how it works. I have no idea why. So when I look at YouTube, it says it's there. And everything is there. So we're just going to go on and have a fun time here. So if anyone dares to join me or joins me later, my name is Tiffany Hill Allen. I am a marketing strategist and an online educator, and I'm also the CEO of a marketing agency and media. It's a media and marketing agency, actually. So we have podcasts that we're doing, just in case people want to know, okay, Tiffany, what are you doing? We've seen you. We hear you doing this, that. What are you really doing? And so let me just kind of break down the vision. Let me just say that so that you can kind of understand what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. Let me see. Can you see that? Okay, there. Okay, I just want to make sure. What is that? You can see that this is my I don't know why that just happened, but you can see my closet. So my podcast studio is in my closet. So so one of the videos I'll do is how I transform my closet into a podcast studio. And so this is actually a cute little backdrop I got from Amazon. And so that way you don't see the sound buffers that is in the back. So I just noticed that my bathrobe was showing. So I don't know if you can see it, but it's right there. So anyway, so what am I doing? That is the question that a lot of people have. So let's start off education. Starting with the online education company. So Start With Occupancy is what I thought about as the thing that most people are missing. When I started diving into this and really talking to a lot of residential care homeowners as well as sales professionals, um, really there's so many different things that's coming at you. There's so many moving parts of this business, especially people who were just either investors starting out or business owners. And what I found is that they're so busy with licensing, funding, compliance, all these things, never thinking about the occupancy, who they're serving, who's their target market, what are they doing, especially if you're not from this industry, you're just like, well, just people who are older. And that's too broad, too general. Like, yes, you are, but what's going to make you different, right? And so I remember, laying down and I was just kind of thinking, it was Champions of Change Corner, and did that, but it didn't really resonate with me. So I wanted to do something different. And I knew I needed to change the name to make sure that it resonated with the business, right? And so what I ended up deciding to do, and what came to me is through a conversation I was having with the VP of clinical services at my company that I worked at the time. We were having a conversation and we were just saying everything starts with occupancy. The things that she has to do as a clinician, it depends on who we're serving in the community when it comes to operations and funding and budgets and all those things. Everything begins with occupancy. And so as I started to really think about that, that is the birthplace of Start With Occupancy, because we have to always think about who we're serving. How are we serving them? And so that is how the name actually came about. And it's a iteration. The business started off with one thing in mind. And to be honest, the business started off with, um, for corporate sales professionals, because that was where my thing was, right? Was helping them. And I found that a lot of the people who's in the industry, who's working for the larger companies, were struggling as salespeople. Even those that came over from different companies, whatever have you, they just didn't have a really good training programs. A lot of times they're just onboarding. They're not really doing training. Hey, I see you. I don't know who you are, but give me a wave. I'll put on my glasses if I have to so I can see who's here. But but so that's how it started. It was, when you're in business, the one thing that you're thinking is a great idea and you're starting off with, what happens is that it iterates over time. And when I was doing research and trying to start that business, what I found was there was a lot of people who was investing in senior living, investing in residential assisted living. They didn't have the background. They didn't really know what to do, how to do it. And so I found, hello, I think I have more people looking. So hello. So what I did was I realized that, and just put where you're from. If you can put in your notes here, like in the comments, like you don't have to say your name. Well, it's going to show anyway, but, but, but just put where you're from, what city, what state. That would be great. Because this industry is very segmented based on where you're located anyway. But anyway, I saw that there was a way that there was so many people who was looking at getting into the business as investors or as business owners, but they didn't have the background and knowledge. And so therefore my business kind of iterated from there. And so that's kind of how I came down to this path. It's been 3 years in the making, believe it or not. I started the business right at the beginning of COVID, which, hey there. Okay, I can't see. Hi, Esther from Illinois. It's nice to meet you. Yes, I'm at that age where I need my glasses for everything. So, welcome. And so when I started looking at people who wanted to invest in residential assisted living, who wanted to open up the business, whether it's for business purposes, because right now it's marketed a lot of places as a gold mine, and then also people who are passionate entrepreneurs. So that is where I found that there was a really huge need. There was a really big void, a big gap in education and help. Like there was so many people who was literally begging for mentors. And I said, well, I have all this knowledge. I have 12 years in the industry. I started off in a community. I became a regional and oversaw multiple communities within my area, but then within the state, and then in multiple states. And so let me give as much as I can, because I just saw a lot of people that was really struggling as they were trying to go about this venture. And this is a very expensive proposition. This is not a small, business venture. This is like really, really big. So that's how the business started. So, and that's how Start With Occupancy. That's what I was sharing. I don't know if you heard me, Esther, but how the name started, because everything we do in senior living, residential assisted living, and senior care starts with who you're serving. So that's what the whole idea is. So with that being said, there's a podcast, and the podcast used to be called, Champions of Change Corner, but now it is changed over to Start With Occupancy to go along with that brand name. And the workshop that I'm doing on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday is Start With Occupancy, and that is the starter workshop, completely free for anyone who's looking at going into this business, or is, prospecting in it. Like, I'm not sure, I think I want to do this. It is going to be a great little workshop to kind of let people know what they're getting into. Some people are trying to get into this as an investment, and they want hands off. I like the Chick-fil-A model. Like, if you're going to invest, you're going to work. Um, so, so the thing is that this, while you can do that, it becomes, you're still liable. Like, would you invest in a daycare center overseeing children and not have some idea of what's going on? Most people are not running to open up daycares, but there's plenty of children and plenty of need. And it's the same thing with assisted living. This is an actual business. So just going in as an investor, a real estate investor, and not understanding this is an actual business, is interesting. It's an interesting thing. It's done on the corporate side majorly, but when it's done on I call it Main Street, there is a big liability. Is bigger. It's actually bigger, because if anything happens or goes wrong, you are going to be held completely liable. And so we want to make sure that you have the education and the knowledge so that you can become, number one, successful in your business, but number two, that the inherent risks that's in your business we could avoid at all costs. And at the end of the day, I'm kind of selfish. Um, the industry has such a bad rep on the street. I look on Reddit and I look on Instagram at some of the things that people highlight and show, and the comments and what people say is their experiences with either residential assisted living or nursing care and things like that when it comes to older adults are so disheartening. And every time there's someone out there who is investing in this and going into this business, but not getting the knowledge that they need to do it properly or right, puts another black eye and another stamp on what those people are saying. So my selfish self is like, I want to stop that. I want people to know that this is a great business, and there's a lot of people out there who really cares for residents. They just may not know what they're doing. And so a lot of things happen by accident. So I see Esther. Is there anyone else on? I know I'm looking at myself too. So let me turn myself off here. so anyway, the other thing is, just if you're joining me, just put your city and state in there. So I'm super excited about the podcast. So that is where the podcast came from, Start With Occupancy. So the education courses, which is what I started with, is what I have, right? As an education platform. And the education platform is Start With Occupancy. And then I started an actual business accelerator program. If you study the tech industry, a lot of times when it comes to seed funding, companies will go into an accelerator program to get mentors, to get funding, to fine tune their business proposition, to fine tune their business in and of itself, their processes, all that type of stuff. And so that is what I have done is with a team of coaches. We are here to actually help all new startups who have already opened. I am not the compliance licensing, that person who's going to help you get that part done. I am the person that helps you to find out what you're doing before you even go there, before you even get to licensing and finding your location. What do you need to know, and who are you going to serve? But then once you open, I'm that person to help you for that first 12 months. Or if you're already open for 6 months, the next 12 months, right? So the Compass Rose Excel is the name of it. It's Compass Rose Excel. And that Compass Rose Excel is the accelerator program. So the whole idea is that we're going to go over the 4 majors that you need to know in your first 12 months in the business, or I would say your first 2 years, because it takes a while to learn the different parts of it, and people who've been in it for years are still learning. So that is um, marketing, operations, that is sales, as well as clinical services. So that is the 4 higher level things. But we have coaches and mentors. We have courses that you're going to have in that. It is going to be live. It's not just like, courses like by yourself. Is all live, but they are recorded. So if you miss it, you have that. So that is something that we also have. And then the Hope Hill Education Company is for the corporate people. That is my sales and marketing directors. That is for the people that is over there who's needing some assistance with their sales and marketing plans. And there's very nuances that the big box people have that an individualized owner may not have. And so that's where that education comes from over there with them. So I said a lot. If you have any questions, Esther, if you're still on, you're welcome to put it down there, or anyone else. If Esther's off and is somebody else on, ask me any questions in regards to senior living, about the Start With Occupancy podcast, business, or whatever have you. The other thing is the marketing and media company. So the other part of what I do is called Positive Impact Company. And with that one, it is the all the content, everything that I have going out. So I am on YouTube, Pinterest, Threads now, Instagram, Facebook, blog, podcast, anything that has to do with that. And actually, we have multiple podcasts, right? So there's Start With Occupancy, there's Outlive Your Life, and there is the new podcast that is coming out with some great new interviews I have with some wonderful people that is about serving I call it senior market. So it's for those who serve them. It's for the seniors and for those who serve them. So this is a very specific podcast that is kind of geared towards more caregivers, but it's also towards the aging adult. And so we have that. And then hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll have 2 other podcasts that will come on, and we will become an actual podcast channel covering all of the things that people would need when it comes to the senior care market. And so that is what that is. And then the marketing agency is my partnership with IMG Complete with Cameron Barker Jr. I can't remember the middle initial. I think it's J. So sorry, Cameron, but it's Cameron Barker Jr. So that one is the marketing agency, and that's where we do video marketing, digital marketing, website design, and really get clear with your messaging so that you know how to market your community. So that is what we have. So that is who I am. That is what I'm doing. And so I am just hanging out here. And if anyone has anything, and when it comes to the podcast, any questions or anything like that, I am here to serve. And that is what we're doing today. So I don't want to talk for 4 hours, but I do have snacks. So if you are a snack person, there is lots of snacks. And that's what I have. So omega-3 snacks. I have a friend who actually, anytime we go anywhere, she is full of snacks. All she has is snacks. And then I have the not so good snacks, right? And then I have the hot snacks, because you can't do anything without the hot snacks, which is like one of my favorites. It's the pistachio, chili roasted pistachios. Super favorite of mine. So, start with occupancy. So now I'm thinking, do I figure out what is, sorry about that. Well, so the format, sorry about that. I'm a little hungry. I think I waited too late to eat. So what is the format of the podcast? And what's going to make it different this time than it was before? And holy cow. If you've never had these are really hot. I don't know if you can see that. But they're chili roasted pistachios, and they really are hot. So I probably will need some water in a minute. But how is the format different? So before, it was just me teaching and talking, and in some ways it's still kind of like that. But the way I did the format is going to be a little bit different this time. So what I'm going to be doing is having it release twice a week. It's a big ask. I'm going to try my best to make sure I'm on time with doing it. Right now, I'm promising myself to have it on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but and I'm trying to make that hardcore. I don't want to give myself an out because it is tough, editing and all that other stuff. But I think I have the tools now that I understand how to edit the podcast. Welcome. Hello. Edit the podcast the way it needs to be. Hey, if you would like to join me, just put your name and where you're from or the state, and that would be great. And so we're actually talking about the podcast, Start With Occupancy, and the new format. So the new format of the podcast is where one day a week I'm doing a case study. So if you're looking at buying or going into assisted living or senior living or anything like that, you're going to have a case study. And the case study I'm going to have is on rotation. So it'll be on marketing, a case study on sales, a case study on mindset. And I'm thinking I would need one more, so that way it can even out the month. And so if you have a suggestion on what kind of case study that I should do, or, high level, I already have 54 topics for the whole year, but I like to kind of have that with an example so that you can actually get the story of what happened to someone who was in that particular situation and shoes, that I can do a case study for you to help you. So let me explain what I mean. So for instance, I cannot see. I don't know what's going on with my eyes. I think I'm going to need contact lenses. So let me tell you. So the first one, let's just say a case study on marketing. So if I was to do a case study on marketing, I would utilize someone in my aura that I've had and experiences who had a different marketing idea. And we're going to go over what she did. So we're going to talk about that type of marketing as well as what this particular person did. So for instance, this person, she really leaned in on social media. And I say social media more like YouTube because YouTube is a search engine. So this particular person leaned into that really hard, really heavy. And because of it, she was able to fully get her new build from the ground up. So it wasn't even open yet, but she was able to, before they even opened, have something, I don't know, I think it was like 45 depositors already ready to go. And she filled up that community of 100 and I think it was 119 units or 109. I think it was 109 units in 1 year. So in a year, by leaning in to social media, more specifically YouTube, which is kind of social, but she utilized YouTube, but she also utilized Facebook. And between those two, she was able to get leads, create a community, get a lot of conversation going in her local market. And so we'll see exactly what she did on the podcast, right? And utilize that as a template that you can use then for your business. You don't have to use every way of marketing in order to grow, but at least doing doing that and having a template of what worked for somebody else is super cool. So that is what we're going to do. So that's the marketing one. So then I'll have one for sales. Then I'll have one for the mindset, because a lot of times you get discouraged in sales and marketing. Things go wrong. You have to deal with family dynamics. That's, I don't know if that's sales marketing. I guess that's sales, but that's also mindset. I had my first drink after getting into this industry because my bestie sister said that I needed to have a drink. so mindset is really important in this industry, because at the end of the day, you're dealing with a lot of heavy issues with people. I think that's something that investors don't think about, is that this isn't just, it's not just an investment. Like there's people that's involved and behind these investments. And there's a lot of heavy stuff that you're having to deal with when you are working in it. And I think that's something that people need to be aware of before they jump all in and thinking that this is like renting a house to a family. It's not. It's very, very different. So um the case study is going to be one day, and I'm thinking Tuesday would be the best day to do that type of format, because it kind of gives you something to look forward to. Maybe Monday. If you have a choice on when you would want that, please put that in the comments, whether it is Monday or Tuesday, to have the case study released. I just figured Tuesday because Monday I want my weekends. So very selfish of me. So I can do the final edits on Monday and have that for you guys on Tuesday. The second one is going to be much shorter, right? So the case study one will probably be somewhere around anywhere between 20 and 35 minutes. The second one, though, is going to be quick tips. This is the one that it'll be like, I don't know, let's say between 7 and 15 minutes long. Something really quick, something that is just going to be, I'm sorry, I'm trying to check to see if this worked out and see if anybody's asking me any questions over here. Hold on one second. I don't see it here. All right. Is the quick tips. So 7 to 15, 14 minutes long. And this is to give you those quick tips, those quick wins, things that you need. And I'll give you an example, like 5 productivity hacks to reclaim your time. A lot of times that is one of the things that most people who work in sales, in senior living, and or who's an operator, especially if you are independently owned and operated and you're doing it all yourself, time is like time management is super, super hard. So anything that I can do to help you shorten that, giving you back your time so that you can actually spend more time with residents, so that you can actually spend more time with your staff, so you can actually spend more time, with families before they come in. That's where, there's things that you can do to help collapse your time and time frames. So that is like what a quick tip Thursday. So I'm thinking Thursday would be a great day for quick tips. If you have a different day of the week that you think that would be helpful, send it to me. Put it in the comments. Let me know. But that's what's my thought with that. So that is how the Start With Occupancy podcast will be. I'm going to snack. Sorry. I was getting in my room. And I'm going to take a drink. And then we'll go with the second phase of this. Because it'll be really embarrassing on live to start choking. Super embarrassing. So the next thing will be the workshop. So let me go back. The next thing we'll have is the group. So we have a podcast right here, but now we're going to have a podcast community. So if you look in Facebook, I've created the group. It is called Start With Occupancy Podcast Community. And that is where, when we have the podcast, so we have this case studies, we have the quick tips, but now you can go into the community, and that's where you can share other tips with each other. Is where, if you guys have questions about something or want me to elaborate on something that was done in the podcast, we can do it there. That's where, I will have free trainings, things that is only for the community. And it's specifically for my podcast listeners. So by listening to the podcast, becoming and following it, so you subscribing to the podcast, so you can get the alerts, and then going into the podcast community on Facebook as a Facebook group, now we can talk about the podcast more. We can kind of go a little bit more granular. I can hop into the Facebook community and do lives and just education right there inside the community. A lot of the assisted living communities that I'm a part of in Facebook doesn't allow and doesn't really do the lives and the live trainings and things like that. So that's really on my heart, is to really kind of give. Like, I feel like if I give, it's going to come back to me in different ways. And so being a giver is really important. But the other part of it too is I want to help families. I want to help the aging adult. I want to help families. How do I do that? By giving you the information so that you can be a better owner, so you can be a better participant in the community, whether you are a salesperson, whether you are an investor. As an investor, there's things that you should know. And I just want to make sure that you do, so that we can all help more aging adults and their families who are in crisis. So the podcast, the Facebook group is called Start With Occupancy Podcast Community. I'm encouraging you to go and join there. And there'll be a sign up in the links. I'll have that in the comments, where you can actually sign up. Give me your email address, so that you'll be alerted on when things are going in the community, because Facebook doesn't do a really good job of, I shouldn't say that. Facebook does a good job of alerting, but you have to put the settings in your phone to make sure that you get the alerts. So even if you're in a community, they will, but it's not going to alert every one of you. So I will have a little training on how to do the notifications inside the group once you get there. But if you send, sign up with your email address, then I can let you know what the weekly schedule is, and I can just do that in one little email. And by then you can also, we'll have it, actually, it's a weekly email that we're doing. It's called The Bottom Line. So the bottom line is going to go over the 4 high level aspects. So that is marketing, operations, sales, and clinical services. And so what we have, the coaches and I have laid out all year long, each month, based on what is a focus for that month. Meaning that now is the time to start thinking about your vaccination schedule. So if you're looking at flu vaccine, COVID vaccine, there was another one that they were talking about that was really big last year that people needed a vaccination for. This is the time now. You don't want to wait till October to start thinking about those vaccinations for your residents. So what we've done in this newsletter is to kind of alert you on what you should be doing as an owner. And the things that you just, like I said, you wouldn't know when you're first starting off, right? You just wouldn't know those things. So that is what the Bottom Line newsletter is. So when you become a part of the group, you give me your email address so that you can get the Bottom Line newsletter. You can always unsubscribe or whatever have you, or say, no, I don't really want that. No problems, no skin. So we talked about the podcast, right? And how it started. Well, we talked about Start With Occupancy, the name. We talked about the podcast and the format of the podcast. We talked about the Facebook group, that we're going to have for the podcast community and what's going to happen there. And so from there, we are actually going to have a workshop. And the workshop is free and it is called Start With Occupancy. So everything, if you notice, it's the branding, Start With Occupancy. I like that sound. I don't know. So anyway, Start With Occupancy. That is the branding. So it is the workshop. I'm doing the first iteration. Well, second, I guess it's the second iteration of the workshop on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. We're going to do it inside the Facebook group. And I've done that on purpose, right? Because I want the people in the group to get to know each other and to really start doing my trainings in the group. So we're going to be doing that inside the group. So go ahead and locate the group and answer the questions, because no one's getting in the group without answering the questions. I think, I'm going to give you a lot, so I'm asking very little. So definitely answer the questions so that you can be allowed in the group. And it helps me. That's what's going to help me with my content and things like that. That's why it's important. But anyway, it's called Start With Occupancy. It is a free workshop. It is for the people in the group, and it's going to go over those things, meaning like doing the market analysis. How do you look at your market? How do you look at the demographics? How do you determine where is the home that you should purchase, or the building, or developing and how should you do that? What are some ideas on development? I'm working with a group now, and we're looking at the cost of developing, or we're looking at a tiny home community. There's another one that's looking at co-housing community. There's so many different ways that you can do this. And so Start With Occupancy is really looking at that, the market, and what does the market demand in your area, and how to determine that. The other thing, though, is we're looking at competitive analysis, um, or you can call it collaborative analysis. Because your competitors typically are later your collaborators, right? They're the ones who's going to help you. So I tend to have always played very nice in a sandbox, because you never know when people are going to need you and need you to come back to them, or they have a referral for you, or things like that. So it's always, always, always better to play nice in the sandbox. So we're doing that. So how to do a competitive analysis. What are the 9 things you should look at when you're doing a competitive analysis? What should you ask? What are some of the items that you don't necessarily ask, but you observe? All those things. How does competitive analysis help with your pricing strategy, and with your messaging and your value proposition? So looking at all of that is important before you actually go and start the licensing and getting the building and getting some of it can go alongside of those things, but that is clarity that you need to have. And again, some things will reiterate as you start going and start, looking and things like that. But that's where the starting point should be. The starting point isn't getting the building first and then the license, because you're going to spend money. There's some buildings that you're going to spend so much money to refit to become an assisted living that it becomes cost prohibitive. Now you can't really, or you can't. I've seen that where people buy a home or a building and they want to refit it and they're not allowed, um, because of whatever it is in that particular state. People do the house and don't realize they have to have a sprinkler system in some states that's required. So you buy a house, but now you have to spend $35,000 to even get it refitted for even the beginning application process of a license, which is still not guaranteed. So we want you not to, my team and I, not to spend that money before knowing the information and knowing what questions to ask before you get into it. There's questions that needs to be asked. And so that is what is super important when it comes to going into this space, right? You really want to be able to know what to ask, what to look forward to, and so that you can, again, be successful. One thing I know someone has done, and I've seen it several times, is they had anticipated two things. I'll tell you two. Anticipated having an assisted living, but all the bedrooms were upstairs. And so then what happened is that, and I've seen this several different times, um, they were having problems with getting the occupancy because the families were like, nah, I don't want my mom to go up those stairs. And what happens if this? So they're already bringing up the objections. And then the person obviously don't have an answer for them because that's just, they're legit objections. So you have that. And then you also have, I think in one state, it was underground. And in that particular state, you can't have um, the residents living was considered underground, even though there was a separate entrance and there was no stairs or anything like that, because I guess it was built on a hill, but they weren't allowed to do that. So now they invested into a building, got licensed, had an idea in their mind with their projections how many residents they were going to have, and they had to cut that resident count by, I think, holy moly, something like 8. So when you're anticipating having, let's say, 12 or 16 residents, and now you can't, have that many, and that's what your pro forma, that's what your financials are based on. Now you're stuck, right? So that's why it's so important to start with occupancy in mind and knowing what questions to ask. What's cool is we're going to have some guest speakers come in and talk it to the group as well. So, and that's with our Compass Rose group, especially. They're going to get the best information. So if you want information about Compass Rose, that 1-year accelerator, kind of incubator accelerator hybrid program, definitely go to compassroseexcel.com. You'll get a lot of information. There is a questionnaire and there is a call that you'll have with me. And the reason is that I'm not here just to like take your money. I want to make sure that that's going to be a really good fit for you. If you're too early in the process, meaning that you're not there yet, then maybe not. It may not be the right time for you. If you have a big base knowledge and you only need a certain specific amount, then there's something else that I have for you. So there's just different things, and I want to make sure that that's a good program for you. But I personally believe that everyone should go through it because you're going to I have coaches who are clinical, which are basically, they are RNs in the industry who knows the industry. Just because you have a nurse doesn't mean that you have a nurse who understands senior living. So there's that, right? Um, it's just so wide. Healthcare is so segmented and is so different. And I've actually consulted with a family who had a nurse in the family, and she was like, I'm a nurse. This is out of her mouth. I'm a nurse. I've been a nurse for so many years, but I don't know anything about this. And I'm trying to figure out what to do with my mom, and what are the questions I even ask? I don't even know what to ask. And so again, the quality of your questions is going to determine the quality of your success. And so you want to make sure that you ask, and that's even for families, right? So we have that. But we have the clinical coaches, we have an operations, we have different operation coaches who specializes or whose strengths are in certain areas of operations, which is really important for you. So that's everything from the pricing and the pricing strategy. That's everything from retention and recruiting and retention, from leadership and building a culture with your team and your staff, coming up with creative processes to help with sales, like anytime dining. How do you do anytime dining? How do you staff that? How do you prepare for that? That is, where we have coaches in operations, right? Even for memory care, right? If you're having some residents who have cognition issues or challenges, then we have coaches that's going to help you to not only know what to do and what to ask families, but also how to train your staff. So super excited about the Compass Rose Excel. There's nothing that's out there that's like it, with the level of expertise that's in it. And I think that is going to be so amazing. Um, then we also have the marketing, where we have marketing people come in and help you with there. We're going to be looking at your marketing and sales plans every quarter, and reviewing it monthly. So you're just going to get a lot more hands-on experience with the Compass Rose program, as well as sales, understanding the sales process. And when you get stuck, when you have a family, you're going to be able to come back into that as part of that group into the program and say, hey, this is what's going on with this family. What are some creative ways, or what are some ways can I connect with them, or what do I need to do to overcome this objection? They're really struggling with this decision. How do I help them? We have coaches that's going to help you with all of that. And I'm just super excited to have that level of support for you as a new owner. So that is what we have there. Whew. I've been talking for, has it been an hour yet? 45 minutes. Holy cow. I'm going to take a break, and then I think we're going to come and do this again. So this will be like part 1. We'll do part 2, part 3 until. And so maybe I'll get the people who's like can't sleep at night and they'd have nothing to do and they just want to hear me talk about senior care, senior living, stuff like that. So the question is, should I change my shirt each time, each hour? I'm thinking yes. What is your thoughts? So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. So we talked about, we talked about how I got started, what I do, how I got started, what actually do I do. We talked about the podcast. We talked about the podcast community. We talked about the actual workshop, which is then will turn into a course. Right now is for free and it's free for the people in the community, but for others, it will turn into an actual course. So it'll be a low course, like maybe like, I don't know, $45, $50, something like that. Once we're all through and it's fine tuned with all the different support materials. So in the next hour, we'll talk to you about being in that community, meaning the Compass Rose. You're going to get access to all of the actual courses as well and lives. So we're going to go more about into that in the Compass Rose, what is Compass Rose and how we do that next hour. But I have definitely enjoyed this and enjoyed my time here with you. And I know that there's always more people on the replay than it is on the initial. So the numbers don't scare me. And listen, if I only talk to 5 of you, that is a-okay, because out of those 5, each 5 people, let's think about this. If you have just 10 people that you as an owner help every single month, for me, that is 120 people. And you multiply that by 5, and that's 600 families I can help just by doing what I'm doing, right? And that's how I look at it, right? It's, you are the stopgap. You are the person that I'm helping who's then going to help this many people. And my goal is to help more families and more aging adults, or seniors, as some people like to call them, in as much as possible. So the way I do that is by ensuring that by helping you, I'm then going to help the family who's then going to help that particular senior, and have a big audacious goal of how many aging adults I want to help in a year. And so I am super excited about putting out this information between Instagram and between Facebook and between YouTube and through my courses and through the workshops we'll be doing and the podcast community, just because the goal is so audacious, it's crazy. But I need you to listen and to do the thing. And so that we can change this industry and change it to be the positive thing that it is meant to be. So with that, I'm going to sign off for part 1, and I will be going into part 2 in the next 15 minutes. Alrighty. Thank you. Now let me figure out what to do. Oh, you know why? I can't see. That's why.